Imagine standing at the edge of a rushing river. You're exhausted, you're covered in the dust of battle, and you are literally running for your life.
Yeah, absolute panic.
Right, and your safe path home is completely blocked by armed guards. They pull you aside, and your survival hinges entirely on how your tongue forms a single, meaningless syllable.
It's terrifying.
It is a terrifying scenario, and it actually happened. Welcome to our deep dive. Before we step into one of the most chilling and brutal chapters of ancient history today, I want to pause and offer a sincere, divine blessing for you. May God bless your day today, and may He deeply bless the entire week you have ahead of you. It is a privilege to share this time with you.
It really is.
So today our mission is to explore a dark, highly dramatic, and surprisingly relevant event from the Hebrew Bible. We're looking at Judges chapter 12.
Yeah, and we are drawing our core insights directly from the historical text, backed by the expert archaeological and theological commentary found in the Holman and NWA study Bibles.
Right. And the picture they paint is intense. I mean, this isn't just a story about ancient warfare. It's a masterclass in what happens when tribalism takes over, when a community turns on itself.
Exactly. How tiny, insignificant differences can just be weaponized into a matter of life and death.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start right in the immediate aftermath of what should have been a massive celebratory victory for the nation of Israel.
Right, so the geopolitical stage is set just after a major military triumph. Jephthah, who is this military leader from the eastern region of Gilead, has just decisively defeated the Ammonites.
And the Ammonites were no joke, right?
Oh, not at all. They had been this brutal, oppressive force against the Israelites in that region for years. So Jephthah, he steps up, leads the charge, and wins a stunning, definitive victory.
Wow.
On paper, you would think, this is a time for national unity, a time for all the tribes of Israel to breathe a sigh of relief and just celebrate together.
Yeah, pop the champagne, have a parade.
Exactly. But instead, the narrative takes an immediate, very sharp turn into internal hostility.
It derails entirely. And it derails because of an ancient honor culture and, well, basically bruised egos.
Big time.
Let's lay out the scene for you. Jephthah is riding high on this victory. He has secured the border. But then the men of Ephraim, which is another Israelite tribe, essentially Jephthah's own countrymen, they cross over the Jordan River from the west.
Right, heading east into Gilead to a place called Zaphon.
Yeah. And they don't just come to complain or, offer a passive-aggressive critique of his battle strategy. They bring an organized, horrific threat.
We really do.
They march up to Jephthah and say, well, basically, why did you go to fight the Ammonites and not call us to go with you? We are going to burn your house down with you inside it.
It is an incredibly aggressive escalation right out of the gate.
It's insane.
It is. And to understand why Ephraim is doing this, we really have to look at the tribal dynamics of ancient Israel. Historically, Ephraim was the dominant prestige tribe. Joshua, the great conqueror who led Israel into the Promised Land, he was an Ephraimite.
Oh, right. So they have pedigree.
Exactly. Because of this lineage, the tribe of Ephraim felt a deep sense of entitlement. They believed that no major national event, and especially a glorious military victory, should happen without them at the center of it.
Taking the credit and the spoils of war, obviously.
Of course. So when Jephthah wins without them, they view it as a direct insult to their geopolitical dominance.
But the threat they make is so specific and honestly so cruel. They threaten to burn his house down. And based on what we know from the previous chapter, Jephthah's house is already a site of absolute tragedy, isn't it?
Yeah. The historical commentary points out a heartbreaking, bitter irony in that specific threat.
Right.
When they say they will destroy his house, in the ancient Near East, that means both a literal dwelling and a family lineage.
But his lineage is gone.
Exactly. Jephthah's lineage has already been destroyed.
Right.
In a tragic, deeply misguided vow he made to God before the battle, Jephthah promised to sacrifice whatever came out of his house first upon his victorious return.
Which is just awful.
It's horrific. That ended up being his only child, his daughter.
Oh, man.
So the Ephraimites are threatening to take away something that has already been devastatingly lost. They are pouring salt in an open, unimaginable wound.
So Jephthah is standing there carrying this immense personal trauma, mourning the end of his family line, and now he's facing down a heavily armed mob of his own people, demanding he bow to their authority.
Yeah, it's a powder keg.
His counter-argument to them is basically, look, my people and I were in a massive existential conflict with the Ammonites. I called you, I asked for your help. but you didn't lift a finger to save us.
Right.
So when I saw that you weren't coming, I risked my own life, I went to battle, and the Lord handed them over to me. Why are you coming up here today to fight me?
And this is where the broader historical context really illuminates the dynamic. This is not the first time the men of Ephraim have pulled this exact stunt.
Wait, really?
Yes. Decades earlier, back in Judges chapter 8, they did the very same thing to another famous judge, Gideon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. After Gideon won a major miraculous battle, the Ephraimites showed up furious, feeling left out of the glory.
Yeah.
They wanted the prestige of the victory without having taken the initial risk of the fight.
Okay, let me push back on this a little bit, because this is where the human psychology gets really complex for me.
Sure.
When Gideon faced this exact same toxic behavior from Ephraim, he de-escalated it.
Again,
He used brilliant diplomacy. He essentially flattered them, told them their minor contributions were better than his major ones, and completely smoothed over their pride. It's kind of like a toxic workplace dynamic.
that's a good analogy.
Like a department head threatening to burn down the company because they were left off a successful project's email thread. But why didn't Jephthah just do that? Was he just acting out of blind insecurity, or was there a cold, strategic military reason to wipe out the Ephraimites once and for all so they'd stop acting like bullies?
What's fascinating here is the psychological profile of Jephthah that emerges from the text and the commentary.
Okay, tell me about that.
The scholars describe Jephthah as a man who achieved social acceptance through sheer brutal force. The Holman notes refer to him as a bastard who achieved social acceptance.
Oh, wow. Rough start.
Very rough. He was the illegitimate son of a prostitute. He was completely rejected by his half-brothers, driven out of his home, stripped of his inheritance, and forced to live as a gang leader in the wilderness.
So he's a total outsider.
Exactly. His entire life was a bitter struggle for legitimacy. He had a deep, unhealed wound regarding his social status. He only returned because the elders of Gilead were desperate and begged him to be their military commander. So he doesn't have the secure, aristocratic, diplomatic temperament that Gideon had.
Ah, so when the Ephraimites show up and insult him and his men, they are hitting the literal one button they shouldn't push.
Yes.
I mean, the text says Ephraim called the Gileadites fugitives of Ephraim, essentially calling them illegitimate runaways and imposters.
Precisely. They are weaponizing his deepest trauma. Jephthah's fragile ego simply cannot tolerate the insult to his legitimacy.
That makes so much sense.
Furthermore, historians point out that Jephthah's claim that he explicitly called the Ephraimites for help before the battle and they ignored him well, that isn't actually recorded anywhere in the previous chapter.
Wait, so he might be lying.
Some scholars suggest this might have been a rhetorical tactic, an invented convention to justify his anger. He uses the name of the Lord to bolster his argument, claiming God gave him the victory, essentially saying, God is on my side, not yours. But unlike Gideon, he isn't trying to keep the peace. He's trying to establish dominance.
And that leads to a crucial theological shift noted in the sources, right?
It does.
In all of Jephthah's previous battles against foreign enemies, the text explicitly says the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. It was framed as a holy war for liberation.
Yes.
But here, as he prepares to attack his own people, there is zero mention of the Spirit of the Lord. He is acting entirely on his own wounded pride and his need for validation.
Yeah, that shift is huge. Israel is taking the swords that were meant to defend the nation from external predators and turning them inward against their own brothers. It is a catastrophic failure of leadership.
Because Jephthah's ego has been threatened, he escalates this to a full-blown civil war. And that escalation leads directly to one of the most brutal tactical slaughters in ancient history.
It's just devastating.
The geography of this is absolutely key to understanding how it unfolded.
Right. The NWA map details are very helpful here.
So, the Ephraimites had crossed the Jordan River from the west to the east to confront Jephthah in his home territory of Gilead. Jephthah gathers his men, they clash with the Ephraimites, and because Jephthah is a hardened, brilliant tactician, he completely routs them.
He destroys them.
The Ephraimites are defeated, they are panicked, and now they just want to retreat back home.
To get back home to safety, the fleeing Ephraimites have to cross back over the Jordan River.
Oh, right.
But Jephthah anticipates their route. He doesn't just chase them, he outmaneuvers them. He sends his Gileadite forces ahead to capture the fords of the Jordan River.
The shallow crossing points.
Exactly. The only places where a large group of people could safely cross the water. By capturing these fords, Jephthah creates a geographical choke point. Every single fleeing Ephraimite has to pass through these heavily guarded checkpoints to survive.
This presents a massive logistical nightmare for Jephthah's men, though. Well, how do you identify the enemy in a civil war where everyone looks exactly the same? They are all Israelites. They share the same culture. They wear the same types of clothes. They have the same physical features.
That's a great point.
If an Ephraimite walks up to the river and the Gileadite guards ask, "Hey, are you an Ephraimite?" the guy is obviously going to lie and say, "No, I'm from Gilead. Let me cross."
Of course.
So Jephthah's men needed a foolproof filter. They couldn't rely on visual identification, so they weaponized linguistics. They forced anyone trying to cross to say a specific password, shibboleth.
The linguistic mechanics of this trap are incredible.
Right.
How does a single nation develop such distinct dialects? Geography. The Jordan River was a massive natural barrier. Over generations, the tribes living on the east side of the river interacted with different neighboring nations and developed different speech patterns than the tribes on the west side.
So they naturally drifted apart, phonetically.
Exactly. They were geographically isolated enough for phonetic drift to occur.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The word shibboleth, which is spelled Xibolete in some of the translated study notes we looked at, was completely mundane.
Yes, totally ordinary.
It wasn't a swear word. It wasn't a political slogan. It simply meant a flowing stream or an ear of grain. It was an everyday word with absolutely no grand theological meaning. But the trap was entirely phonetic. It's like a phonetic fingerprint.
Exactly. You can fake a uniform, you can swear a fake allegiance, but you cannot fake the deep muscle memory in your jaw and tongue.
Especially when you're terrified.
Especially under high adrenaline panic.
Yeah.
The linguistics show that the Ephraimite dialect on the west side of the river lacked the sound. It simply wasn't part of their phonetic repertoire.
Wow.
So when a guard put a sword to their chest and forced them to say shibboleth, Ephraimite physically could not pronounce it correctly. The regional accent forced them to say sibboleth with a hard S instead of the shish. It was an involuntary linguistic tell.
I want to invite you, the listener, to just put yourself in that horrific scenario for a second. If you're an Ephraimite standing at that river, you might not even realize you have an accent.
Right. To you, it's normal.
To you, you're saying the word perfectly. You are looking at the water, home is just on the other side, and the moment that hard sound leaves your lips, you are grabbed and executed right there on the riverbank. A slight regional accent, just a variation in how you pronounce a consonant, became an immediate death sentence.
The scale of the slaughter is staggering. The historical record states that 42,000 Ephraimites were killed at the river that day.
42,000.
42,000 people. To put that in perspective, that is an entire generation of fighting-age men wiped out.
That is unthinkable.
And they weren't wiped out by a foreign empire. They were wiped out by their own cousins over a bruised ego and a mispronounced word.
It's almost too massive to comprehend. I mean, it's a self-inflicted genocide.
And that is the ultimate tragedy of this era. Connecting back to the NAA notes, the judges were supposed to be deliverers. They were raised up to save Israel from external oppressors, to protect the vulnerable. But here, they are utilizing their military genius and national resources to systematically destroy their own people.
Instead of protecting them.
Yeah. The Ephraimites are permanently crippled by this loss. Historical records indicate they never again play a major leadership role in the history of the judges. It is a catastrophic, self-inflicted wound that permanently shifted the balance of power.
It is a massive turning point, and the narrative of the text reflects that shift immediately. After this horrific civil war, Jephthah's rule doesn't last long at all.
No, it doesn't.
The text tells us he judged Israel for only 6 years before he died and was buried in Gilead. His legacy is entirely defined by a lost daughter, an annihilated lineage, and massive internal bloodshed.
A very dark legacy.
But nature abhors a vacuum, right? After Jephthah dies, the narrative abruptly shifts to a string of successors who represent a very, very different kind of leadership in Israel. We get a rapid-fire list of what scholars call the minor judges.
Correct. After the trauma and exhaustion of a massive civil war, the nation seems to pivot away from warlords. We are introduced to 3 men in quick succession.
Okay, who are they?
First is Ibzan of Bethlehem, who judged for 7 years. Then Elon the Zebulunite, who judged for 10 years. And finally, Abdon the Pirathonite, who judged for 8 years.
Okay.
And the historical commentary, especially the Holman study notes, draws a profound, intentional contrast between the legacy of Jephthah and the legacies of these 3 minor judges.
Because Jephthah's story is stripped of family and future, but these minor judges, Their entire identity in the text is wrapped up in exorbitant wealth and massive families.
Very much so.
Take Ibzan, the first one. The text explicitly tells us he had 30 sons and 30 daughters. And this isn't just about having a big family, is it? This is about geopolitical strategy.
Absolutely. The mechanics of power have shifted from military might to dynastic alliance building. The text notes that Ibzan married all 30 of his daughters to men outside his clan, and he brought in 30 women from outside his clan to marry his sons.
Wow, that's a lot of weddings.
It is. In the ancient world, marriage was a treaty. By arranging 60 marriages outside his immediate group, Ibzan is creating a massive 60-point web of political alliances, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts across the tribes of Israel.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's a way to consolidate power and ensure stability without drawing a sword.
And then you look at Abdon, the third minor judge mentioned here. The text says he had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, and they all rode on 70 donkeys.
Yes.
Now, to a modern ear, a fleet of 70 donkeys might sound a bit comical, but you have to understand the socioeconomic reality of the ancient Near East, right?
Right. In ancient Israel, a donkey was not just a beast of burden for a poor farmer. A fine riding donkey was a mount for royalty, nobility, or high-ranking officials.
Like a luxury vehicle.
Exactly. Horses were mostly used for foreign war chariots. So having 70 family members riding on a synchronized fleet of 70 donkeys is the ancient equivalent of a family having a fleet of 70 chauffeur-driven, armored luxury vehicles.
That is wild.
It was a massive, undeniable display of extreme generational wealth and elevated social status.
So what does this all mean? We just went from a guy who sacrificed his daughter and slaughtered 42,000 of his own people to guys whose only recorded accomplishments are throwing weddings and buying luxury donkeys.
Yeah, quite the whiplash.
Did these minor judges actually accomplish anything for the nation? Did they fight any battles, or did they just sit around being wealthy bureaucrats while the nation coasted along?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of the Book of Judges, the historical consensus is very clear. These men were not epic saviors.
Ah.
Unlike Othniel or Deborah or Gideon earlier in the book, who led dramatic rescues against foreign armies, these minor judges are characterized solely by their polygamy, their vast accumulation of riches, and their massive administrative families.
So they were bureaucrats.
They represented a bureaucratic class. After the exhaustion of Jephthah's civil war, the people probably just wanted stability. These officials brought a kind of mundane administrative stability to the region, acting as managers rather than deliverers.
They were just managing the decline of the nation then. It's an illusion of peace.
That is exactly the right way to frame it, and there is a chilling, subtle detail in the text that proves your point.
What's that?
In the earlier, brighter eras of the judges, after a leader would deliver the people, the text would conclude their story with a very specific, comforting phrase.
Okay.
It would say, "And the land had rest for 40 years." Or the land had rest. It was a promise of true, deep national peace.
And here.
But after Gideon, and especially here, after the internal slaughter of Jephthah and through the reign of these wealthy minor judges, that phrase completely disappears from the text.
Wow.
The words, "and the land had rest," are never used again in the entire book of Judges.
The land never rests again. True peace was gone. They might have had bureaucratic stability. They might have had wealthy administrators riding on donkeys. But the deep, restful peace of a unified, secure nation was dead.
Because they had destroyed it themselves?
Exactly. It was dead because they had become their own worst enemies. And that is exactly why this ancient history is so directly relevant to you today. This isn't just dry, dusty history about ancient tribal geography or river crossings.
Not at all.
This is a timeless masterclass in the absolute dangers of unchecked pride. It shows us with terrifying clarity how quickly a community, a nation, or a society can completely destroy itself from the inside out when egos are threatened and tribalism takes over.
It really forces every generation to hold a mirror up to its own social dynamics.
Yeah.
If history shows us, as it vividly does in Judges chapter 12, that our greatest, most devastating threats are often internal rather than external, it raises a crucial question for us today.
Which is?
What are the modern shibboleths in your world?
That's a good question.
Think about the arbitrary slang, the political buzzwords, or the cultural litmus tests we use on social media or in our workplaces.
The purity tests,
Yeah.
basically.
Exactly. What are the tiny manufactured differences we use right now to figure out if someone is one of us or one of them, and how quickly are we willing to cut them off if they pronounce it wrong.
That is a profound question to walk away with. What are the minor differences we are letting turn into absolute permanent divisions in our own lives?
Something to really think about.
Thank you for exploring this intense, revealing chapter of history with us today. We hope it gave you something deeply meaningful to chew on as you navigate the complexities of your own world.
Absolutely.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to say goodbye and remind you again that God blesses all of you. Have a wonderful, reflective rest of your day, and we will catch you on the next one.